1. Introduction. My name is Bella. I am 25 years old. 1 year ago, I made a big change in my life. I moved from a small town to a very big city. This was a new start for me, full of new chances and hopes. I wanted to find a good job and make a successful life for myself here. The city was exciting, with tall buildings and many lights, but it was also a little scary. Everything moved so fast, and there were so many people everywhere. I often felt like a small fish in a very large ocean. Soon after moving, I found a job. I started working as an assistant in a large, well-known company. It was a big office building with many floors. There were hundreds of employees working there every day. I was happy to get the job because it felt like a real opportunity. My main tasks were to help with general office work, organize important papers, and support my team with daily needs. I tried my best to learn quickly and do everything well from the very first day. However, there was one person who made my work difficult and added much stress. My boss, Dan. Dan was a cold man. He did not smile often, and his face was always serious. He was also very strict about everything. Everyone in the office knew this. When Dan walked by, people would often become quiet. They seemed afraid to speak or make any noise. Dan had a bad reputation in the company. He was known for firing employees very quickly, sometimes without giving a clear reason or warning. This made everyone feel uneasy and insecure about their jobs. Every morning when I walked into the office, I felt a knot in my stomach. I felt nervous. I worried about making even a small mistake. I worried about what Dan would say or how he would react. The pressure was always there, a heavy cloud over my head. But I also had a strong feeling inside me. I was determined. I wanted to show everyone, and especially Dan, that I was a capable and hardworking person. I wanted to prove my worth to the company. I needed this job very much, and I was ready to work very hard to keep it and do well. I hoped that my effort and good work would be enough to make Dan happy and keep my job safe. I knew deep down that it would not be an easy journey. 2. The first mistake. One Monday morning, the office was busy as always. People were working quickly. I sat at my desk, trying to finish many tasks. There were emails to send and documents to prepare. I was focused on my computer screen. I needed to send an important file to a big client. I checked the name of the file and clicked send. I thought everything was fine. I moved on to my next work item, feeling good about my progress. Later that day, I received a call. It was from the client. The person on the phone sounded confused. They said the file was not correct. My heart dropped. I quickly checked my sent emails. Oh no, I had sent the wrong document. It was a big mistake. My hands started to shake a little. I knew this was a serious problem. Dan, my boss, would not be happy. He did not like mistakes at all. The team meeting was set for the afternoon. I walked to the meeting room slowly. My stomach felt strange and tight. My colleagues were all sitting quietly, waiting. Dan walked in. His face was very serious. He looked around the room. Then his eyes stopped on me. He started to speak about the client project. He said there was a big problem. Suddenly, Dan raised his voice. He began to shout. His words were clearly for me. "Bella, you sent the wrong file," he said loudly. Everyone in the room looked at me. My face felt hot. I wanted to disappear. Dan continued, "This is a very important client. You made a big mistake. One more mistake, Bella, and you are gone. Do you understand?" He stared at me, his eyes cold and hard. His words hit me hard. I felt very small. All my colleagues were watching. I felt so humiliated. My cheeks were red with shame. I was also very frightened. The thought of losing my job made me truly scared. I needed this job. I worked so hard every day to prove myself. But as I sat there, listening to him, another feeling started to grow inside me. It was anger. A small, quiet anger. I felt angry that he spoke to me like that in front of everyone. I felt angry that my hard work seemed to mean nothing after one mistake. This anger was new. It was a strong feeling mixed with my fear. I knew I had to be more careful. But I also knew I would not forget this moment. 3. Endless work and pressure. After the difficult meeting, Bella's work life changed a lot. Her boss, Dan, started to give her many more tasks. These were not easy tasks. He often asked her to prepare late-night reports. He also gave her deadlines that were almost impossible to meet. Bella had to finish a lot of work in a very short time. Bella tried her very best to complete everything. She wanted to show that she was strong and capable. To do this, she had to change her daily routine completely. She stopped taking breaks for lunch. Instead, she ate quickly at her desk while she worked, or sometimes she did not eat at all. She stayed in the office for many extra hours each day. Often, she was the last person to leave the building, long after everyone else had gone home. Even after leaving the office, her work did not stop. Bella often took her laptop and important files home with her. She worked late into the night, sometimes until 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. This meant she got very little sleep. Her eyes felt tired all the time, and her head often ached. Her body also felt weak and exhausted. She knew that her health was slowly getting worse, but she felt she had no choice. Bella pushed herself every day. She had to keep going because she needed this job very much. She had moved to the city to start a new life and needed money to live. Losing her job was not an option for her. She had to keep working hard, no matter how tired or stressed she felt. She felt a heavy weight on her shoulders, a constant pressure to perform. Around the office, Bella started to hear whispers. Her coworkers would talk quietly when they thought she could not hear them. They talked about Dan and his actions. Some of them said that Dan was trying to make Bella quit. They believed he wanted her to leave the company by making her work too much. This made Bella feel even more alone and under pressure. She felt like she was in a race she could not win. Every morning, she woke up feeling tired, and every evening, she went home with more work. Dan would often give her new, complex projects just before the end of the day. He would say, "I need this by tomorrow morning," without caring that Bella already had a full list of things to do. He just kept adding more and more tasks. It felt like a test every single day. A test of her strength, her patience, and her will. But the finish line was never in sight. The list of tasks only grew longer. The light in the office stayed on later and later, often with only Bella working there, facing the endless work and constant pressure. 4. A strange scandal. Bella continued to work long hours every day. She tried her best with all the extra tasks Dan gave her. Soon, she started to notice something strange about some of these jobs. Many of the reports and papers Dan called urgent were not about new work. Instead, they seemed to be about old problems. It looked like Dan was asking her to fix things that were already finished, or even things that were done incorrectly a long time ago. Bella slowly began to understand. Dan was trying to cover up his own mistakes from the past. He did not want other people in the company to know about his errors. He wanted her to make these old problems disappear. This made Bella feel very uneasy. After a short time, Dan started to blame Bella for these old mistakes. He would come to her desk with a serious face. He would say things like, "Bella, this report from last month is wrong. You need to correct it." But Bella knew she had not even been working at the company when that report was first made. She felt confused and then angry. She knew she was not at fault. However, Dan made it sound like every error was her responsibility. This happened often. He put his own problems onto her. He made her responsible for things she did not do. One afternoon, Bella was walking quietly in the office hall. She passed by a meeting room. The door was not completely closed. She heard two men talking inside. They were two senior managers from the company. Their voices were low, but Bella could hear some of their words. They were talking about Dan. They said Dan was having many problems. The company's main board was not happy with his work. He was under a lot of pressure to show good results. If he did not, he might lose his job. Then, Bella heard something else that shocked her. The managers said Dan was using his staff. He was using his team members to hide his bad work. He made them work extra hard. He made them take the blame for his own failures. He used them like a shield. A shield is something that protects a person from danger. Dan was using his team members to protect himself from the company board. He was using Bella as his shield. Everything became very clear to Bella. Dan was not just a difficult or strict boss. He was a boss who made many mistakes. He was afraid. He was afraid of losing his job because of his errors. So he gave Bella his old problems to fix. He made her responsible for his past failures. He wanted to hide his bad work from everyone. This was a strange and unfair scandal. It was happening right in front of her eyes. Bella felt a mix of anger and sadness. She was working so hard, but her hard work was not for her own success. It was to help Dan hide his problems. She was part of his secret. She was a shield for him. This was not fair to her at all. She felt very upset about this new discovery. She realized her situation was much worse than just having a strict boss. It was about a boss who was dishonest and unfair. 5. Standing alone. Bella needed support. She decided to talk to her coworkers. She hoped they would understand her situation. She thought they might help her with Dan's difficult demands. She approached a few of them, asking for advice or just a listening ear. However, no one offered any help. Her colleagues looked away when she spoke. They stayed silent. They were too afraid of Dan to get involved. Their fear was clear in their eyes. Bella understood. They did not want to be Dan's next target. This made Bella feel completely alone. She felt a deep sense of betrayal. She realized she had no one inside the company to turn to. This feeling of isolation was heavy. She felt like she was fighting a battle by herself. The pressure from Dan was already immense, but now the lack of support from her peers added to her struggle. She felt more vulnerable than ever before. Despite feeling alone, Bella decided to take action. She started to keep a careful record of everything. She wrote down every email Dan sent her. She saved every message he gave her. She noted every date when Dan assigned her impossible tasks or blamed her unfairly. She also wrote down the exact words he used. She wanted to have proof. This proof would show what Dan was doing. She kept a small notebook hidden in her bag. She also saved digital files carefully on a separate drive. She knew this evidence would be important later. At the same time, Dan's attitude became even harsher. His words grew sharper. He often spoke to Bella with a cold voice. He would look at her with a hard stare, making her feel small. He continued to give her more work than she could finish. He often criticized her in front of others. One day, he came to her desk. He stood over her. His voice was low but clear. He told her, "You are not strong enough for this job." He said this job needed someone tougher. Bella felt a cold knot in her stomach. She knew he wanted her to quit. But she also knew she had to stand strong, even if she was standing alone. 6. The breaking point. One evening, the office became quiet. Most people left at 6 o'clock, but Bella could not leave. Dan told her to stay. She had to finish his reports. He said they were very important. Bella felt very tired. Her eyes hurt from looking at the computer screen for many hours. She worked quickly, but there was so much to do. The clock moved slowly. Each minute felt like an hour. She wanted to go home and sleep. She wanted to rest her body and mind. But Dan's words were in her head. "Finish these reports," he had said, so she kept working. The office lights were dim. Only Bella's desk lamp was on. She was alone. The silence was heavy. She typed and typed. Her fingers were sore. Her back ached. She looked at the time. It was 1 o'clock in the morning. Then it was 1:30. Finally, she finished the last report. Her head was spinning. She saved the files. She turned off her computer. She walked out of the office building. The city was dark and quiet. It was 2 o'clock in the morning. She felt a deep tiredness in her bones. She went home and tried to sleep, but her mind was still busy. The next morning came too fast. Bella felt very sleepy. She had only slept for a few hours. She drank coffee, but it did not help much. She went to work feeling heavy. In the morning, there was a team meeting. Everyone sat around the big table. Dan stood at the front. He looked at Bella. His face was hard. He started to talk about the reports. He said they were not good enough. He said Bella was slow. Then he said a bad word. He called her useless in front of everyone. Bella listened. She felt her face get hot. But this time it was different. She did not feel only shame or fear. Something inside her changed. It was like a small crack. Then the crack grew bigger. A part of her heart broke. She had worked so hard. She had stayed until 2 o'clock in the morning. She had given all her energy. But Dan did not care. He would never care. He would never see her hard work. He would never respect her. In that moment, Bella understood. She understood that nothing she did would ever be enough for him. She could work for 20 hours a day. She could skip every meal. She could lose all her sleep. But Dan would always find a way to criticize her. He would always make her feel small. This thought was clear in her mind. It was like a bright light showing her the truth. She looked at Dan, but she did not really see him. She saw the endless nights. She saw the missed lunches. She saw the fear. She saw the humiliation. She saw how her health had become worse. She saw how she had tried so hard to prove herself. But for what? For a man who called her useless after she gave him everything. A new feeling came to her. It was not anger. It was not sadness. It was a strong, quiet understanding. She did not have to live like this. She did not have to suffer anymore. This was not a normal job. This was not how people should be treated. Her mind was made up. The breaking point had come. She knew what she had to do next. This was the end of her suffering. 7, my last day. After the difficult morning, a new strength grew inside Bella. It was a quiet, firm strength. She knew what she had to do. Her decision was clear, like a bright light after a long night. She stood up from her desk. Her hands were not shaking. Her heart was beating, but it felt strong. She walked towards Dan's office. Her steps felt lighter than they had in months. She remembered all the late nights, the impossible tasks, and the unfair words. She thought about the constant pressure, but now those memories did not make her afraid. They made her firm. She reached Dan's door. She did not knock. She simply opened it and walked in. Dan was sitting at his large desk, looking at his computer screen. He looked up, his face showing his usual strict and cold expression. Bella stood in front of his desk. She looked at him directly, meeting his eyes. Her voice was calm and steady. It was a strong voice, one he had never heard from her before. "Dan," she said, "I will not work for someone who does not value me. I quit." The words hung in the air. Dan stopped moving. His eyes grew wide with shock. His mouth opened a little. For the first time, he had no words. He usually had many angry words, but now he had none at all. He just stared at Bella, completely surprised. He did not expect her to leave. He expected her to stay and suffer. Bella did not wait for an answer. She knew there was nothing more to say. She turned and walked out of his office. She closed the door softly behind her. When she stepped back into the main office, all the other workers looked up from their screens. They stopped typing. They stopped talking. A quiet silence filled the big room. Their faces showed silent surprise. They watched her every move. They had seen Dan treat her badly for many months. They had seen her work hard. Now they saw her leave with her head held high. They were clearly surprised by her courage. Bella walked to her small desk. She picked up her small bag. She felt a wonderful lightness in her body. The heavy weight that had been on her shoulders for so long was finally gone. She walked towards the elevator. She pressed the button for the ground floor. The doors opened. She stepped inside. As the elevator went down, she felt a quiet joy growing inside her. When the doors opened on the ground floor, she walked out into the street. The sun was shining brightly. The air felt fresh and clean on her face. It was a new day, a truly new beginning. She was free. Her last day at that difficult company was finally over. 8, a new start. After Bella left her old job, she felt a great sense of peace. For the first time in many months, she could breathe freely. She decided to take some time just for herself. She did not rush to find another job. Instead, she focused on getting better. She took long walks in the park, enjoying the quiet mornings and fresh air. She read books she had wanted to read for a long time. She met friends for coffee and talked about simple things, not work problems. Her sleep improved, and the constant stress slowly left her body. She felt her mind become clearer each day. During this time, Bella thought deeply about her future. She knew what she did not want. She wanted a job where people respected her. She wanted to feel valued for her hard work, not criticized for every small thing. She decided that a healthy work environment was most important. She began to look for new jobs, carefully choosing companies that seemed to care about their employees. She sent out many applications and had several interviews. She spoke honestly about her skills and her goals. Soon, Bella received a job offer. It was for an assistant position in a smaller company, but the people seemed kind and welcoming. She accepted the offer. On her first day, she felt a little nervous, but the feeling quickly went away. Her new colleagues smiled and helped her. Her new boss was patient and explained things clearly. There was no shouting, no impossible deadlines, and no fear. Bella felt respected and supported. She could do her work well and still have time for her life outside the office. This experience changed Bella. She felt much stronger than before because she had faced a difficult situation and made a brave choice. She was braver now because she knew her worth and was not afraid to stand up for herself. Most importantly, she felt free. Free from fear, free from stress, and free to choose her own path. She understood a very important lesson. Work should help you grow, not break you. If a place does not value who you are and what you do, it is always okay to leave. You are always worth more than a bad job.